My daughter was about 8 or 9 at the time of this story. We'll call her D for daughter. My mom loved taking her to this local amusement park where we lived at. It had rides, rock climbing walls, a water park, etc. On this particular day, Dee was climbing all the walls. She would hit the bell on the first try at the top, climb down, and then go to a more difficult section. That's when my mom noticed them, a couple in their 30s or 40s, whispering to each other and looking directly at Dee. So my mom told Dee that they were going somewhere different and moved to another section of the park. Well, not more than 5 minutes later, there they were again, staring at Dee this time and whispering to each other once again. My mom grabbed Dee and ushered them to another section of the park once again, only to be met by the couple following once again. What makes things even more unsettling is that every time my mom moved my daughter to a different part of the park, this couple would turn up closer and closer to my daughter. At that point, my mom was becoming paranoid and decided that it would be best to just leave the park. That's when they approached them both. They were trying to talk to Dee, and luckily my mom has an instinct with creepy people, and snatched Dee, put her behind her, and this is what she told them. "What business do you have talking to an 8-year-old, you f***ing weird-ass perverts? You think I didn't see you following us all around the park, staring at my granddaughter and whispering to each other? I'm calling the police." The strange couple decided to leave in an absolute hurry. They didn't even stop to give an explanation as to what they could have been doing. To this day, I thank my mom for this. Who knows what their intentions were, but I'm glad we never got to find out. I'm glad to have such an observant mom in this situation. And to that creepy couple in that amusement park with absolutely shady intentions, you better hope that my mom never sees you again. There's no telling what her intentions will be if that comes to pass. I'm not sure if this is even the right place to post this, but I'm looking for some indication that I'm not losing my mind. I'm 27, female, and married to my husband, who's 31. We have 2 children, Isaac from my first marriage, and Tiana, who I share with my husband. Isaac is 8, Tiana is 5. I'm distraught right now because I've been seeing this woman almost everywhere I go, and I have no idea if this is happening by coincidence, but I'm trying to be calm as I write this, and English is not my first language, so please bear with me. This whole situation started somewhere around May of 2022, where me and Isaac were at the local park, just doing our own thing. My son was playing with some other children at the monkey bars when I saw this woman approach me. She had red hair, pretty sure it was natural, and her face seemed tear-stained. I became concerned as I thought she was crying. I proceeded to ask her what was wrong, if she was all right. But she kept her stare on my son. The more she looked at him, the more she sobbed. Then, all of a sudden, she sprints to him, running, screaming, "Michael?" She kept calling him that, and it freaked me out. I mean, she's running after my kid, calling him a different name. My son and the other children were rightfully scared, and they recoiled as this woman approached them. I got to them before she did, as I was just faster. I then screamed at her to get lost, but she just stood there as I held my son, and she seemed pretty enraged. She then muttered some things, but I couldn't hear her as she stomped away. I spoke to one of the other children's fathers, and he seemed alarmed by what had happened as well. He predicted that she was probably a grieving mother, and that my son looked like the child that she had lost. I was still disturbed, and took my son home right then. Since then, I've been afraid to take any of my children to any public areas despite my husband's reassurance. Skip to June 2nd of 2022, I get a call from my kid's school stating that a woman, who was a new volunteer for lunch duty, kept mentioning that my son was her Mikey Bear, and that she's been looking for him for years. They told me that another volunteer who had been working with her reported this to the principal. I was scared as hell. I acted immediately by signing my kids out for the day. When I called the school the next day, I was informed that she was no longer there, and it freaked me out even more. July 13th, 2022, it was Tiana's 5th birthday, and we decided to host it at a park in my in-laws' hometown. Everything was going well, even though I was a bit on edge. It was then, somewhere around 9 p.m., when we began tidying up, and as I looked at many oak trees behind us, I could have sworn I saw that woman. I screamed at the top of my lungs and started chasing after her, but she somehow got away. Ever since then, I haven't seen her, but I feel like this isn't the end of it. Given that first encounter, I don't know how she knew where my children went to school. I don't know how she knew that we were having a birthday for my youngest. I don't know any of it, but I'm thoroughly sketched out by the entire experience. We filed police reports, but they've pretty much said that there's nothing they can do, given that she never actually touched my son. And when I went to the school to find out any information I could find on this woman, they simply said they had no record of who she was, where she came from. All they knew is that she stopped showing up the day after I took my children home early. I still don't know what to make of any of this, but what I can tell to anybody that may be listening, please watch your children, because the level of crazy that's out there should never be underestimated. A little backstory. So I was a security guard for this local company in my area. I was assigned to a water park with another guard who was regularly there keeping watch. He was to train me and show me around, tell me what codes open doors and such. I first noticed how quick he was to enter and leave the property. He never wanted to spend more than 10 minutes inside before he would be eager to leave. Our first night was simple. There was nothing exciting or interesting going on, so the night just dragged on. After a few hours, I asked him if he'd experienced anything unusual while working here. He told me that he's had some problems with people trying to enter the property without permission, but that's about it. He also told me that he hated working there because of his encounters with these people. He said they creeped him out because of just how sneaky they were. He didn't really want to tell me much because he was afraid that I would leave the post and he would be stuck with the job by himself. That should have been a red flag for me, but I was too excited to let anything like that scare me. The last few hours of the shift inch by, and eventually we get to clock out and go home. Before the next night's shift, my boss gives me a call and lets me know that the other security guard, my partner, had just resigned. I was a little upset because now I was to work a 2-man post all by myself with barely any knowledge of the place. Fast forward a few weeks, I started to get the hang of the place, create my own routine with no issues at all. No break-ins, no vandalism, nothing. It's now 2 a.m., and I was outside of the property, completing my rounds when I heard a door slam from the inside. I jumped because of how loud it was. As I started to walk back into the property, I continued to hear doors opening and closing, opening and closing. I could feel myself getting nervous because it was the first situation that I've ever had in this place. As I walk inside and started to check the doors and complete a round to make sure there was no one on the property, I get to this corridor where there was a set of stairs that lead down to a door that was wide open. I walked down the stairs to close and lock the door because I was too scared to take a look inside. As I turned around to head back up the stairs, I noticed a man dressed in all black standing at the top. I take a step back and realize that I'm cornered. If he was to try anything, I would have nowhere to run or hide. So I politely asked him if he needed any help, but he didn't reply. I then asked him how he got onto the property. Still silence. He slowly turned his head and snapped his fingers. Then, from the left side of the staircase, another man slowly crawled to his side, on all fours, just like a dog. I turned around and kicked the door open, ran inside and locked myself in a bathroom as I called my boss and told them what I witnessed. They sent an armed security guard to my position to complete a walkthrough to make sure I was safe. As I got the call that the area was clear, I came out and told them everything from start to finish, but I quickly realized through their inquisitive looks that they didn't believe me. At that point, my shift was just about done, so dejected, I go clock out and head home for the night. The next morning, I receive a call from my boss, explaining that they checked the security footage from the night before, and what they told me absolutely horrified me. Every hour, when I would complete my rounds inside of the property, those same two men would follow me through the facility, as if they were stalking me. Some sort of strange cat and mouse game to them. After this, I asked for a new position because I was horrified to work at that water park, and I certainly wasn't going to be there alone. I now know why my trainer didn't want to work there anymore. Whether it was just a feeling or something so much more, I think that he knew exactly what was happening, and that's why he never spent a moment longer in that place than he absolutely needed to. I don't blame that man for resigning. Not one bit.